Hey Anime Stark Squad. Ever wondered what would happen if Deku opened a cafe and got a harem? Well, stay tuned for part 1 of this epic what-if scenario. He cleaned the tables very carefully, mopped the floor, and the windows, even though it wasn't really necessary because the place was already perfectly clean and quite new. The machines, utensils, and tablecloths, everything was new. But somehow, cleaning helped calm his nerves about this ongoing project. Izuku, alright, he wiped his shirt even though there was no dirt on it. Here we go. He slowly opened the door to his cafe. It might sound absurd, but it was real. He had opened a cafe. It was crazy how everything had happened in just a couple of months. It felt unreal to not only have a job but also to own his own place after accepting the harsh reality and giving up on his dream, thanks to his biggest idol. He shook his head, trying not to dwell on it. As much as he harbored anger towards the number one hero for shattering his dreams, he had to continue with this idea and project he believed in. Bakugo's father had been too kind to give him a place, saving his useless son from certain death at the hands of a mud villain. It worked out well for him. Getting things for his place wasn't easy, but he also got help with that. According to the psychologist, it was good to distract his mind with something away from heroes, something to complete him. That's why he was doing this. The only thing that entertained him as much as heroes was making coffee. For a long time, he had spent it in a cafe that was now sadly closed. He used to help the owner prepare coffees and all kinds of drinks and desserts. Seeing people happy when they received their food and enjoyed it filled him with joy. Now it was his turn to create his own art to attract customers, if he could. His constant pessimism attacked him, telling him he wouldn't achieve anything and would close without accomplishing anything. In that case, the plan was to hide in his bed until he reached 40 without doing anything else. Izuku, for now, it's as I expected. A couple of hours had passed, and as he had suspected, there was no one around, at least it's not dirty or anything. Mitsuki, Izuku-chan, the door to the cafe opened, the bell rang, and Katsuki's mother entered along with Inko, both smiling and cheerful. Izuku, hello, Mitsuki-san, it's good to see you. He smiled at them as they stood in front of him. Mitsuki, Inko told me you had already opened, and I couldn't resist coming. She was honest with the boy while her green-haired friend admired the displayed desserts. Izuku, oh, thanks for coming. At least he had someone he could trust who wanted his desserts. Inko, Izuku, what's this? She pointed to a colorful cupcake. Izuku, rainbow cupcake, they're incredibly delicious. His mother looked quite impressed. Would you like one, Mom? Inko, of course, I never had the chance to taste what you made, despite leaving the kitchen in a mess. The younger freckled boy scratched his cheek, embarrassed. Mitsuki, come on, Inko, it's not that bad, especially when you compare it to Katsuki's uselessness. She sighed in exhaustion, I wish he would at least lift a finger to wash a dish. Inko, Mitsuki, don't be too hard on him. Katsuki must be good at other things. She tried to cheer up her friend, ignoring the tension in her son. Mitsuki, yeah, whatever. We didn't come here to talk about my son's thick head. We're here to try Izuku-chan's food, and I won't leave until I do. After the visit of his mother and Bakugo's mother, a couple of people came to Izuku's surprise. Just like their mothers, these visitors were ecstatic about the place. It immediately dispelled his worry that only people close to him would appreciate his creations. His food was good enough for everyone, and that made him happy. He ended up selling a significant portion of everything throughout the day and afternoon. It was delightful to see the astonished and joyful faces of people tasting his food. Izuku knew he had a lot to improve to reach something incredible, and as long as he kept improving, everything would be fine. The first week was quite smooth. Some people returned to the cafe to enjoy desserts and drinks prepared by the green-haired boy. He still couldn't believe how successful this idea and plan had become. Izuku, what a pleasant morning. With a coffee in hand and looking outside, his day began at 6. He cleaned the tables and prepared everything for a good day. He didn't expect anyone to show up at that hour, it was too early for most people. I didn't know there was a cafe. During her daily exercise routine, she often passed by the street. It was the perfect time for her morning run, so she knew that this cafe was quite new. I wonder how it is. She walked in and was greeted by the warm ambience and soothing music. Izuku, welcome to Heroic Mouse, as friendly as ever, the freckled boy appeared to serve her. Hello, hesitantly, she sat on a stool at the counter, admiring the decor. This place is not bad. Izuku, thank you, I put in a lot of effort to make it so. The girl looked at the freckled boy holding a notebook in his hand. Is this place new? The green-haired boy nodded with a smile. Izuku, it opened a week ago, and it's been quite an adventure to get here. He smiled, looking into the distance. It must have been very stressful. The boy nodded and came back to reality. Izuku, what can I get you, miss? He spoke with great courtesy. A black coffee, please. Something perfect for relaxing. Izuku, right away. The boy disappeared through the employee door, leaving the girl alone. She listened to music and watched the television in the establishment, a children's program that played in the morning hours. I don't understand why they show this at this hour. Literally, there's no one to watch it. She made a casual comment, as it seems silly to have a children's show on when the kids were sleeping. Izuku, I sometimes wonder the same thing. The boy reappeared with a cup of coffee and placed it in front of the girl. Enjoy your coffee. He stepped away to continue cleaning the remaining parts of the cafe. I hadn't noticed there was a cafe that's been open for a week. I'm really nervous. It was a reflection she made to herself. The stress of the week was not leaving her in peace. This is really delicious. Izuku, I'm glad to hear that. Seeing the girl's downcast demeanor triggered his helping nature. Is something bothering you? He approached, hoping to be of assistance. I'm about to take the UA entrance exam, and, well, it was clear that nerves were getting the best of her. Izuku, I see. Before sinking into his own world of disappointment, he tried to help. Do you feel prepared? Somewhat. The truth is, I've been studying all week to pass it, and I'm very nervous. I don't know if I'll make it. Her under-eye circles were quite prominent. Izuku, you'll probably make it. If you've studied so much, your chances are good. Just have confidence in yourself and your answers, and you'll see how it all flows. He tried to encourage the girl a little. I don't know. The bar is set pretty high to get into UA, especially the hero courses. It's a bit. She didn't know how to describe it accurately. Izuku, like climbing a mountain? The girl nodded with a small smile. Maybe. I hope all my studying pays off. It was one of her fears that all this effort wouldn't be worth it. Izuku, if you don't make it, look at it from the positive side. At least you tried, and you can take that practical knowledge to another school. It might be a slightly longer path, but it'll likely be just as exciting as this one. The green-haired boy had a point, she needed to relax a bit more. You're right, she continued to drink her coffee in relative calm. I need to calm down a bit. Thanks for the coffee and the chat. Izuku, you're welcome. Always willing to lend a hand. He smiled kindly at the girl, who left her money on the counter. I'll come back here once I've passed the entrance exam. Can you save me a coffee for that moment? The freckled boy let out a chuckle. Izuku, of course, under what name? He took out his notebook and noted the order. Itsuka Kendo. With that, she headed for the exit. See you another day. Izuku, what a pleasant girl. With that final thought, he continued with his cleaning to start the day. He couldn't shake the thought of UA. It was still a relatively fresh wound, the shattering of his dreams by all might in the world. He truly wanted to be the hero who could save everyone, but without a quirk, it was a practically impossible challenge. He always knew that, but he wanted to try, despite people not having faith in him or telling him it was impossible. He had the knowledge, and although he lacked practical experience, he hoped to emerge as the first quirkless hero in history. But after facing a villain and trying to save his tormentor, he realized how crazy he was. He almost died, and instead of receiving praise for putting himself in harm's way, he received nothing but scolding. It broke his heart completely. Listening to it from his idol was painful, but when he had the chance to be a hero for a few seconds, he realized that the world would never accept him and that he would be quickly overshadowed by someone else, whether they were good or not. He fell into a deep apathy, with no clear direction, existing only to get by. He had no desire to do anything, to go out, or to achieve anything. Of course, his mother noticed, and she asked his Aunt Mitsuki for help. She told her husband Masaru to drag him out of his room to live life. His uncle took him to a gym, and Izuku didn't understand why, but he did it anyway. There, a very kind man instructed him in exercise. At first, he did it just to make his uncle happy, but he ended up feeling sore. So his uncle took him to another place to relax, and then they went to eat. Basically, his uncle took him to do various things throughout the day. And by the end, he didn't even understand why his uncle was doing all this. Gradually, his uncle took him to the gym more often, and Izuku started to feel good about what he was doing. Without going to school and without having to put up with Bakugo or any other idiots, he could finally hear his own thoughts. He filled himself with positive vibes, and in less than 6 months, he became an improved Midoriya Izuku. At that point, His uncle rewarded him with the cafe, not only for saving his thick-headed son but also for the splendid work he had done on himself. The rest was simple, acquiring machinery and various items he needed for his idea and developing it. Izuku, many things have happened since then, he smiled as he looked at the streetlights turning on. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. There's no need to cry over spilled milk. I'll continue down this path that I also enjoy. In the morning, the sunlight touched his face. For many people, it was an annoyance, a reminder that sleep time was over, and they had to start their day. But for Izuku, it was different this time. He had slept well and felt refreshed. He got up with high spirits and started his morning exercise routine to clear his mind. After that, it was time for breakfast with his mother. They had a simple meal, a couple of eggs, coffee, and buttered toast for his mom, while Izuku had a bowl of cereal. Then, he tidied up his room and headed to work to prepare for the day. He spent his work hours cleaning with the door open to welcome customers with a friendly smile. His first customer was always an older lady who would stop by to grab a coffee with milk and a cinnamon roll. She appreciated Izuku's hard work. Next came a daytime patrol hero who would swing by for a hot chocolate and a couple of cat-shaped cookies. After that, things quieted down until around 9 in the morning when more people on their way to work stopped in for a light breakfast. Izuku's patience and good vibes made the wait enjoyable. As the afternoon approached, the cafe got quieter, allowing Izuku to take a short break. He used this time to catch up on news and hero analysis, a habit he cherished. When school and most workplaces let out, the cafe filled with various people looking to relax. Some stayed for hours, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. There was even a sweet elderly couple who lived nearby and visited regularly. Seeing them always brought joy to Izuku's heart. In the evening, as the flow of customers dwindled, Izuku prepared to close the cafe. By that time, there wasn't much left to sell, and there weren't many people buying. After a final cleanup, he set everything in order for the next day, closed up shop, set the alarm, and carried unsold items home to share with his mother during dinner. He watched a bit of television with his mom, then went to his room to study on his computer. It was recommended by his psychologist to study from home to avoid the stress of potential harassment. After finishing his lessons, he took a shower to relax and went to bed, ending another perfect day. The next day followed the same routine. But as he was about to close up, he noticed something different. Izuku, a cat? A small black cat had arrived at his cafe, looking weak and meowing softly. You must be hungry. Without much thought, he went to the kitchen, grabbed some food, and put it in a dish for the cat. He placed the dish in front of the exhausted feline. Here you go. Then, he realized the cat might be thirsty. He quickly fetched a bowl of water. He stood there, watching the little cat eat eagerly, clearly showing signs of hunger and neglect. Izuku couldn't help but feel sorry for the poor creature. Izuku, how did you end up like this, little one? He murmured as the cat drank water. What am I going to do with you? The cat looked up at its savior and let out a faint meow. Izuku, I'm not sure if mom wants a cat. He obviously couldn't leave the cat on the streets. But first, we need to do a few things before taking you. The cat meowed in agreement. Izuku, I'll take that as a yes. Now. He put the cat on his jacket and checked his phone. Where's the nearest veterinarian? While he looked up the nearest vet, the little cat had sneaked out of his jacket and followed the delicious scent that led to the kitchen. It was still hungry, and a little more food wouldn't hurt. With feline agility, it hopped off the table and made a leap towards the tempting treat. There was a loud crash in the kitchen, which startled Izuku. He rushed to make sure the cat wasn't hurt, frantically looking for it. Izuku, oh, come on. I just cleaned, he said with some annoyance. He walked over to the side of the stove and found the culprit. It was munching on Endeavor's cookies? The cat continued to enjoy the fiery glaze that Izuku used for the fire-themed hero treats. Izuku, you like those? He knelt down to admire the cat, which was still savoring the glaze. I always make sure everything I use is safe for animals just in case there's leftover food to give to street animals, but... He picked up the cat and the half-eaten cookie. I'm not sure how this affects a cat. The cat meowed happily, seemingly addicted to the fire-themed glaze. Izuku, it's probably best to get you checked out, little one. He placed the cat on the table and began cleaning up the mess. These were just a trial, and by the way you're devouring that glaze, I think I could sell them. He glanced at the cat, which was now gobbling the glaze off a hero-shaped head. After about 10 minutes of cleaning, he closed up and headed to the nearest veterinarian, just a block and a half away. Luck seemed to be on his side as the doorbell chimed in the vet's office, and he was met by a somewhat familiar face. The doctor recognized him, Izuku-san. She was a somewhat regular customer. Izuku, Shui-san, I didn't know you worked nearby. What a wonderful coincidence. Shui, well, you never really asked about the place. You just knew I was a doctor, and I didn't specify that I'm a veterinarian. Izuku felt a bit embarrassed, but it was her private life, and he had no right to know, right? Izuku, anyway, it's nice to have you close. You see, this little guy came to my cafe in pretty bad shape. He hadn't eaten or drunk anything, and well, he started to feel nervous, thinking he might have done something wrong. He ate cookie glaze. Shui, I see. She took the cat in her arms and examined him. He doesn't seem to be hurt or mistreated. He's probably from a stray mother, and if he's wandering alone, maybe his mother has passed away. That saddened Izuku, who looked at the kitten with compassion. I can give him a bath and a couple of vaccinations right now. Izuku, that would be best. He smiled at the woman, who was analyzing him. Shui, tell me, Izuku-san, what do you want to do with this little one? The cat let out a meow. Izuku, honestly, I don't know. I've always wanted a pet, but for one reason or another, I couldn't have one. I'm not sure if I'd be the best owner. He approached to pet the cat. Shui, but you won't know until you try. She tried to convince him. Izuku, I don't know, he continued to hesitate. Shui, oh, come on, how can you say no to this face? She brought the little black cat closer to Izuku, causing a meow. Izuku, all right. His soft heart betrayed him. Shui, I'm glad to hear that. She placed the kitten in Izuku's arms while she completed the paperwork. What name do you want to give him? The green-haired guy thought about it. Izuku, what do you think of Pantaleon? He looked at the cat, who just sniffed the air. I guess not. He looked at the cat very carefully, thinking of another name. Batman. Shui, please, not another one. I already have too many black cats with the same name. Izuku, all right. The cat meowed. Fatuna? The cat didn't react either. No. I don't know many names, and all this cat seems to want is glaze. He decided, I'll call you Gietta. The cat meowed happily. Shui, I guess that's a yes. The cat's name is Gietta. She had seen stranger names before. The big day had arrived, the UA exam, a chance for many to achieve their dreams and hopes, although only a few will make it. Izuku looked in amazement as a large number of students flocked to UA Academy like moths to a flame. Some stopped by his cafe for two reasons. The first reason was to take a short break to calm their nerves and, in case they weren't nervous, to enjoy some pleasant moments before the admission exam. And the second, more important reason, was the cute cat with a blue and green cap playing with a toy mouse by the window. The little cat was just too adorable. Many only felt at ease when the cat came to greet them, stealing the show and providing a moment of relief on this stressful day. The cafe became an oasis in the midst of all the anxiety, and it meant a lot of work for Izuku. Izuku, I'm lucky I prepared for something like this. It's chaotic, but, thankfully, I stayed up late making food for today to help ease the wave of students that doesn't seem to be diminishing. A purple-haired guy spoke up at the bar. Purple-haired guy, is it a tough day? Izuku, it's busier than usual. The exam must be causing a lot of stress. Izuku gave another order for coffee with cinnamon rolls. Purple-haired guy, do you have something strong to keep me awake? I'm feeling terrible despite it being early. Izuku, a smash cafe is what you need. Izuku went to prepare it. Izuku mumbled to himself, there are very few employees. Izuku, from the kitchen, it can be. Usually, I can handle this kind of situation by myself, but if it starts to get much busier, I might need help. I'll think about it when it becomes a real issue, not just something as occasional as this. He came out with a large coffee cup that had 2 golden swirls on one side. Izuku, a smash cafe to go. Purple-haired guy, you must be kidding. Izuku, go ahead, laugh if you want. I did it on purpose. Purple-haired guy took a sip of the coffee and felt an instant surge of energy. Purple-haired guy, it's potent. How much caffeine is in this? Izuku, it's a special formula to keep you awake for at least 16 hours. I created it when I really needed to stay awake for that long. Although, the healthiest thing is to have only one in a month. Purple-haired guy, I don't think I'll need more coffee for a while. He got up, left money on the bar, and was about to leave. Purple-haired guy, thanks. By the way, it's Shinso, not Shino. He pointed at a piece of paper near the mouth of the All Might caricature that read, "Don't fear, the coffee is here, Shino." Izuku, sorry. Izuku shouted as the purple-haired guy left. Now, finally, he could rest after all that work. He sat down to pet his cat. Izuku, Gayeta, you're a perfect employee. I'm lucky mom didn't kick you out. You're too adorable. After that wave, things calmed down, and regular customers returned to the cafe. Izuku began preparing for the post-exam rush. It wouldn't be easy, but he wanted to encourage those who had a tough day, especially with an exam like that. Izuku, I wonder if I would have passed. I suppose I would have done well on the written part, but the practical. Maybe it was the best choice not to take that exam. He continued to wait at the bar and watched Gayeta sleep on the windowsill. Shinso, your cat is very lazy. Suddenly, the purple-haired guy opened the door, startling Izuku. Izuku, you can't expect much from a cat. Plus, he's tired from playing so much. Anyway, what can I get you? Shinso, another Smash Cafe? Izuku, very funny. Shinso sat down heavily in front of Izuku. Shinso, it's nothing. A clear sign that he wanted Izuku to be concerned, but without much support from Shinso, there wasn't much Izuku could do. Izuku, it may not seem like it, but if you say so. Want something sweet to calm down? Shinso nodded. Izuku, all right. Izuku disappeared through the kitchen door, leaving Shinso alone with the cat. Shinso thought to himself, why is he alone? Shouldn't there be more employees? Izuku returned with a hot chocolate top with marshmallows, which formed a happy face in the foam. Shinso, I think you're trying to induce a diabetic coma in me. First, the cat, then the supercharged coffee, and now this? Izuku, I recognize someone who's been through something tough just by looking at them. I've experienced that same feeling of stress and helplessness. Believe me, it eats away at you more than you think. Izuku left the guy to his own thoughts and served more students, some more cheerful than others. Shinso sat there, savoring his very sweet snack, still thinking about the exam and how poorly he did in the second part. Mind control didn't work well against giant robots, and it all seemed rather unfair. He knew that he was only halfway there, and he held on to his plan of entering hero courses with the sports festival. He'd have to endure until then. Izuku, anything else? Shinso, for now, nothing. Izuku, all right, Mr. Tense, let me know if you need anything else. Izuku left the purple-haired guy to his thoughts, thinking that it would do him some good. Shinso, actually. Shinso paused on his way to a table to look at the guy. Shinso, I want an eraser dessert. Izuku, wow, very few people order that. Coming right up. This was one of his favorite things to make. It was a custard with the design of the hero Eraserhead, with a whipped cream scarf and sweet details for his goggles. Eraserhead wasn't very well known, given that his work mostly happened at night when it was impossible to see him due to the darkness. Not to mention his quirk, which, along with the night, provided the perfect scenario for taking down villains. That's why Izuku loved him so much. Someone so dedicated to their work that they didn't care about the surrounding cameras and only focused on protecting the innocent and punishing the bad guys. Of course, there had to be a touch of Eraserhead in his cafe as a tribute, even if no one recognized it. Izuku, an eraser dessert for the guy with eye bags. He placed the custard in front of Shinso, who showed a small smile. Shinso, thank you. Shinso didn't know where to start eating it, especially with the dessert's expression. Izuku, I suggest starting with the eyes. It makes it easier. Shinso, hey. Izuku paused for a moment. Shinso, why are you here alone? Where are the other employees? Izuku smiled somewhat embarrassed. Izuku, I'm the only employee, and this place is actually mine. It was a tough journey to get here. There were days when I wanted to give up, when I wanted to stay in bed all day, and I thought about all the bad things that could happen. But you know, the more time passed, and the harder I worked to reach my goal, the more incredible the journey became. Despite everything, as long as I don't give up, there's not much that can stop me. Izuku tried to encourage the guy a little before returning to his work. Shinso, effort, huh? Shinso smiled, looking at the custard. Shinso, I can do it. And it seemed like it worked. Usually, they knew how to solve their problems quite easily. They learned to do many different things to not worry anyone at the time. Their infinite curiosity devoured all the knowledge around them. But this was not something they had planned. It wasn't a second-hand team, but they still got angry about what happened. Just a few days before the entrance exam, an unfriendly hero appeared, one of those who thought they were better than others just because they were heroes. His arrogant and proud attitude stressed them out, especially because they weren't in their right mind. The idiot was drinking in the afternoon. It seemed like his wife kicked him out of the house, judging by his anger. He bothered some ladies who were near the cafe, and of course, Izuku couldn't allow that. So, he called the police and did his best to keep the guy busy until a couple of heroes arrived. The troublemaker resisted, and in the battle to calm him down, their sound system got destroyed. Now, there was no music in their place, which irritated them slightly. They only had the TV for entertainment, and unfortunately, they couldn't afford a new sound system. They still had to pay a couple of things at the cafe, not to mention the supplies. According to the calculations they made, they couldn't afford one for many months. Izuku, welcome to Heroic Brew. Even with all the stress from a week ago, he had to smile at the people who came. Kendo, hey, cafe guy. The cheerful red-haired girl arrived as promised. I passed. Izuku, congratulations, Kendo-san. I assume you want your well-deserved prize. The girl nodded eagerly. Black coffee for Itsuka Kendo, the next great hero. To cheer her up even more, he went into the kitchen. Kendo, hee hee. She sat at the counter, and the cafe's top employee appeared at her side. A kitty? Gietta looked at her with great curiosity, smelling peculiar. Hello, kitty. She reached out her hand to see if the cat wanted some affection. Gietta, meow. The peculiar scent of the stranger eventually grew on Gietta, and she contentedly accepted the girl's affection. Kendo, you're adorable. She took the cat in her hands, caressing it with great affection. You are. A ball of fluffy love. She brought the cat closer to her face for one last hug. Izuku, PFFF. To the girl's embarrassment, Izuku was watching the spectacle. Kendo, this. Realizing she was caught, she put Gietta back on her lap. I didn't know there was a cat here. She tried to act naturally, which Izuku respected. Izuku, that spoiled cat on your lap is named Gietta, and he's mine, so you can't take him. The girl showed some disappointment at that. On the other hand, here's what I promised. He placed the coffee on the table, with Kendo's caricatured face drawn on it. Kendo, thank you. She took the cup in her hands and looked at the coffee. Izuku, as I told you, the effort is worth it. He placed another plate on the table, much to Kendo's surprise. Kendo, this. It was a dessert, an ice cream with the girl represented as a cookie in the center, surrounded by two other cookies, one of All Might and one of Endeavor. Wow, she smiled, looking at the dessert. Izuku, congratulations, Itsuka Kendo, you've taken your first step on your own path. The girl couldn't hold back her tears of happiness. Kendo, thanks. She looked down, and the cat tried to come back for more affection. Izuku, go ahead, don't hold back, and enjoy your dessert. The girl took a sip of her coffee, the taste was unmatched at that moment. She was not only working hard for her own dream but also because nobody believed in her. Most of all, her schoolmates and her mother. Being a hero was seen as more fitting for a man. They constantly told her she would end up like Midnight, just used for men's carnal desires. That's why her mother forbade her from pursuing this, unlike her father, who, even in his final moments, trained her in martial arts to be the best in battle. It hadn't been an easy path, that's for sure. She studied relentlessly despite the criticism and mockery. Despite the lack of confidence, here she was, savoring a dessert and celebrating with a guy she had barely met a few weeks ago, an important achievement. The dessert was quite sweet and enjoyable, thanks to the cat that was eating the Endeavor's fire-flavored icing. She could sleep peacefully because she had taken her first step. Kendo, thanks for all of this. Now that she realized it, she hadn't even asked for the guy's name. Izuku, Midoriya Izuku, he said with great kindness. Kendo, I'm really grateful, Midoriya-san. She spoke while caressing Gietta, who was very comfortable in the girl's arms. And also to you, little cookie. The cat barely paid attention, he was too comfortable. Izuku, you're a little rascal. He murmured to the cat, who seemed to mock him for the rest he was having. Kendo, rascal or not, he's just too cute. She continued for a while, letting the place calm her down. You're the cafe's owner, right? The freckled guy didn't say anything. It was tough, right? Izuku, how you have no idea. He smiled melancholically. Kendo, then let's do our best, Midoriya-san. The girl looked at him intensely. Let's keep moving forward and growing. She smiled at the guy, who, somewhat dazed, nodded. Izuku, I agree, Kendo-san. The girl seemed pleased with that response. Kendo, hey, I like you. The freckled guy just smiled. They spent the whole afternoon there. Fortunately, there wasn't much to do. It was a calm and slow day, so there weren't many people at the cafe, just a few couples looking for a romantic atmosphere and a busy university student with little time to finish his final project. At the end of the day, only the red-haired girl, the owner, and the sleepy cat who didn't want to leave her remained. Kendo, by the way, how much do I owe you? After so much talk about nonsense and food, she hadn't paid attention to the bill. Izuku, today, it's on the house, but I won't be so lenient if you come back. He joked with the girl, who only lifted Gietta in her hands. Kendo, quick, Gietta, use your cuteness powers to convince him to give me free coffee. She tried to use the cat, but he only did one thing. Gietta, meow. He meowed at his owner, who picked him up and put him inside his jacket. Izuku, nice try, but as an employee, Gietta can't do that. The cat relaxed in his secure spot beneath the green-haired guy's head. Kendo, at least I tried. She didn't mind and, looking at the sky, she could tell it was getting late. Well, I have to go. Goodbye, Midoriya-san. Goodbye, Gietta. See you another day. Izuku, goodbye, Kendo-san. I hope you do well at UA. With that farewell, their day concluded. I had to plan something for the start of the school year. It was certain that something would change, either in the morning or in the afternoon, as many students who came for the exam had returned, whether for a cookie or for the food. Either way, it was clear that there would be an increase in customers in the cafeteria, and I still didn't have any employees. I should start thinking about hiring someone, but since I still had a few payments left for the equipment, I had to manage on my own. I wasn't even considering replacing the damaged radio I had. Because of these problems, I could hardly concentrate on my work, and the customers who visited the cafe regularly noticed. I was distracted and made some mistakes. Shinso, are you okay? It had become a habit for the purple-haired guy to show up on Wednesday afternoons. Izuku, yes, these are personal problems that I'm trying to resolve as quickly as I can. I spoke while cleaning the guy's table. Shinso, do you need help? Obviously, I would help the person who provided such delicious treats. Izuku, I appreciate the gesture, but my problems require more than a guy dependent on caffeine like you and obsessed with cats. I teased the purple-haired guy, who looked at me somewhat skeptically. Shinso, I like other things, you know? The green-haired guy raised an eyebrow in disbelief. Well, you described me perfectly. He sighed, at which point the door opened. Izuku, welcome to the Heroic Mouse. There were two people, a blonde guy and a bespectacled girl who seemed to be examining the place. Are you sure this is the place? The man spoke, unimpressed with the place. It is here. I was recommended this cafe, and now that Kyoka gave us the day off, it seemed like a good place. Although I was told they always play old songs. Izuku, I got the attention of the couple, who looked at me with a simple and somewhat fluffy appearance. Can I get you something? Excuse me, we came for coffee and something to eat. The girl spoke, to which I nodded. Izuku, oh, there's a free table over here. I guided them to a table near the window where Gietta was. Please, have a seat here. Actually, we prefer, before saying anything, the girl sat down and took the cat that was looking out the window. Aw, what a cute kitty. Look, Kyoto-ku, it has a little hat and a mini tie. She started petting the cat, while her husband just resigned and sat down. Kyoto-ku, you should be a bit more serious, Mika-chan. He muttered in defeat. Mika, you can't say no to cats. She extended the cat to her husband, who also fell for those eyes of cuteness. Kyoto-ku, you win, dear. They ignored the guy, who was holding back a laugh while watching the cat steal glances. Izuku, ahem, he drew the attention of the two adults, who felt embarrassed for forgetting about the guy. Here's your menu. He placed it on the table with great enthusiasm. Please let me know when you're ready to order. Without further ado, he went to attend to other customers. Both of them looked at the varied menu in the cafe, different types of drinks, not just coffee, but also smoothies, juices, not to mention the desserts, flan, cakes, cookies, donuts, among other things, some more special than others, and all of them sounded quite delicious. Mika couldn't decide on just one thing. Izuku, do you have your order ready? The friendly guy appeared half an hour later when he noticed they couldn't decide. Mika, the truth is, Everything looks delicious, she couldn't focus on just one thing. Is there something you recommend? Izuku, it's hard to say, but I recommend a strawberry smoothie along with something that goes well with it. If you like cookies or cake-type desserts, perhaps a cupcake. He couldn't know his customers' tastes right away, but he could guess to some extent. Kyoto-ku, I'll have a Mike-manade and an edgy-shot dessert. It sounded too tempting. Izuku, are you sure, sir? Mike-manade is not a regular lemonade, it will make you scream like Present Mike, hence the name. I created it mainly because it would be fun to see someone make faces. Kyoto-ku, don't worry, kid, this old man can handle it. He affirmed confidently. Mika, oh my god, she shook her head at her husband's nonsense. Bring me what you said, a midnight smoothie and all-might cookies, please. Izuku, understood. He was about to leave to get the items when he was stopped by the woman. Mika, oh, and a pitcher of water because he probably won't be able to handle the lemonade. Thank you. She was very distrustful of her husband. Izuku, understood. He went to prepare the lemonade. It didn't take him long to create the lemonade, all the drinks were well organized in his beloved kitchen. The challenge was making it special, with more sugar, lemons, and various additives that made it extremely sour and perfect for eliciting the loudest scream of their lives unless it was Present Mike, in which case it would be a normal scream for him. The glass was unique, with Mike's face in a comical shape. The woman also had her glass personalized with Midnight in a rather adorable pose. It was difficult to find images of Midnight that weren't too explicit, but fortunately, he managed to create something more adorable than provocative. Izuku, here's your order. He placed the tray on the table and stepped back a bit. Enjoy your meal. Mika, thank you. She took the Midnight glass and took a sip, savoring the strawberry flavor. Perfect. She praised the guy, who smiled proudly. Kyoto-ku, it doesn't look too bad. He examined the Present Mike glass before smelling it and leaving it on the table, coughing. This is very strong. Izuku, I warned you, he muttered with a sweat drop running down his forehead. Mika, what, are you going to chicken out? She challenged her husband, knowing he wouldn't. Kyoto-ku, who do you think you're talking to, woman? With great arrogance, he took the glass, ready to drink it. He drank the lemonade in one go. Izuku, this won't end well. He put the tray in front of him, using it as a shield, expecting the scream. 3, the guy lowered the glass slowly. 2, he sighed calmly. 1, he took a deep breath for what was about to happen. The scream resonated for 2 blocks around. The taste was indescribable due to the extreme acidity of the drink. He made a mistake ordering such a thing, and his wife didn't do anything to stop him. Mika, I told you it wasn't a good idea. She tried to hold back her laughter as she watched her husband desperately drink from the pitcher of water. Izuku, I think I went overboard with the acidity, he commented, making the woman laugh. Mika, it wasn't your fault, my husband doesn't handle acidity very well. He just wanted to act tough, one of the reasons she married him. The laughter she got was incomparable. Izuku, still, the man began to eat his dessert eagerly. Mika, don't worry, he'll be fine. She reassured the guy, who wasn't letting go of his tension. By the way. Izuku, yes? The woman looked at him, hoping not to get the guy in trouble with his boss or something. Mika, I was told that they play all kinds of music here, but I don't hear anything. The guy lowered his gaze, somewhat dejected. Izuku, there was an incident that broke the stereo, and it hasn't been replaced. I apologize for the disappointment. The woman seemed quite understanding of the situation. Mika, I see. It's a shame. She was a little disappointed. Kyoto-ku, don't worry, dear. The food is worth it, he spoke, completely relieved with the desserts. Mika, chew before you speak, dear. For Jiro's daughter, it was clear that something was going on with her parents. They started going out a lot, returning home happy and wanting to spend time with her. She didn't complain about the time with them, but it all seemed quite strange. Especially because, on their last outing, they brought back an expensive music system without explaining it to her, which made her quite upset. They were keeping secrets that involved something family-related, like music, and she couldn't bear that feeling of betrayal. So, she planned to uncover this secret. Mika, Kyoka, we're leaving. If something happens, don't hesitate to call us. Her daughter nodded without much interest. Remember, we're going to celebrate your UA admission soon. Her daughter nodded again, still not very interested. You make me very proud, dear. With that, she closed the door, and her daughter went to the window to watch them drive away. Kyoka thought, it's time. She quickly grabbed her jacket and followed her parents at a distance to avoid her mother's quirk. She still remembered how angry her mother got when she strayed too far from her as a child, so she had to be careful. But it was essential to follow her parents. She was certain they knew she was tailing them. However, she couldn't simply go back home after feeling so betrayed by her own family. She needed answers. The path continued, and her parents walked for a long time. Kyoka felt like she had been down this road before. The houses and shops seemed strangely familiar. She passed by a hair salon, a candy store, and more, and it felt like she had been there recently. She pushed this thought aside and focused on her parents and keeping up with them. Sometimes, they would stop and look back, forcing her to hide quickly to avoid being noticed. It was evident that they knew she was following them, but she couldn't turn back now. She needed answers. Finally, her parents stopped in front of a cafe a few blocks from UA. It suddenly made sense. It was the same path she had taken to the UA entrance exam a few weeks ago. She had been so nervous during the test that she emitted sound waves in the ground. They entered a cafe with a logo of a mouse wearing a mask and greeted someone she couldn't see. By their actions, it was clear they knew the person well. She wished she had a better view because they moved further into the cafe, and she lost sight of them in the daylight. Resigned and eager to find out who this person was, Kyoka entered the cafe. She hoped to remain inconspicuous for a while, just like in the movies or TV shows, while she spied on her parents. Izuku, welcome to Heroic Mouse. A green-haired guy drew the girl's attention, and she looked at where he was with her parents. Kyoka, oh. She felt tension as she looked at her mother. Mika, Kyoka-chan. Surprise was immediate. Her daughter had followed them. Kyoka, hi, Mom. It's a coincidence that we're both here. She tried to pass it off as a chance meeting, but her mother didn't believe it. Mika, you were following us. She approached her daughter, who lowered her head, somewhat embarrassed. Kyoka, sorry. It's just that you've been going out every afternoon, and then you brought that equipment, and I wanted to know what you were hiding. Mika, aw, dear. She hugged her daughter, who felt a bit embarrassed. We were planning a surprise for you. Kyoka, a surprise? She looked at her mother with surprise. Mika, yes, we wanted to do something special for your UA entrance. The girl was pleasantly surprised. Kyoka, Mom. She smiled at her mother, who smiled back. Kyotoku, I wanted to keep it a secret until tomorrow, he sighed with some annoyance. Izuku, but admit it, Kyotoku-san, it wasn't a good move to bring so much equipment when you knew she was at home. The man sighed, realizing his mistake. Kyoka, who is he, Mom? She glanced over her mother's shoulder at the guy with a dazzling smile. Mika, he's the cafe owner, and he helped us with your surprise. She took her daughter's hand and walked toward the green-haired guy. Mika, Izuku-san, this is Kyoka, the one we've talked so much about. She introduced her daughter, who simply raised her hand. Izuku, nice to meet you, Kyoka-san. The freckled guy greeted her kindly. Kyoka, nice to meet you too, I guess. Is he really the cafe owner? Seems a bit young for that, she observed the freckled guy, who was overly friendly. Izuku, I guess we should reveal the surprise, right? The woman smiled, and her husband agreed. Kyotoku, you're too impulsive, rock star, he scolded his daughter, who glared at him. Mika, dear, you impulsively bought a stereo to replace the broken one Izuku-san had and left it at home where Kyoka could see it. Her husband was left speechless as her daughter mocked him. Izuku, come on, let's not start arguing. It's time to celebrate. He led the three to the central table where a cat named Gayeta was sleeping. Izuku, for real. Mika, don't worry, Izuku-san, I'll handle it. She picked up the cat and showed it to her daughter, who smiled at the cat. Mika, this is our other employee. Say hi to Gayeta, Kyoka. The cat opened its eyes and meowed at the girl. Kyoka, hello, little one. She petted the cat, which moved from her mother's hands to her lap, demanding more affection. Kyoka, hey. The cat meowed seriously at the purple-haired girl, who sighed. Kyoka, okay. Defeated by the power of cuteness, she continued to pet the cat. Izuku, I'll be back in a minute with the surprise. He entered the kitchen with excitement. Kyotoku, let me help you, Izuku-san. He followed the guy, leaving both women and the cat. Kyoka, I'm sorry I ruined the surprise. They were acting so strange and going out every evening, and then they brought that equipment. Her mother patted her head. Mika, it was our mistake. We should have been more discreet, but we were too excited. You've started on this path of being a hero, and I know you've worked hard to get here. Her daughter looked at her with a smile. Kyoka, thanks, Mom. She hugged her mother, who accepted it gladly. Kyoka, by the way, why here? Mika, oh, Izuku-san makes delicious desserts, and the atmosphere is so warm and peaceful. We thought it was a good idea. Trust me, you'll love the strawberry milkshake. Izuku, and, for the love of everything, don't be like your father and order lemon. Ade, please. The freckled guy reappeared with a tray, and her husband followed with 3 more. Kyoto-ku, enough teasing me. He sat down indignantly with everyone. Mika, whatever, it's time for the reveal. She smiled at her husband, who took the lids off 2 of the trays, while she took off the last one. Izuku, I know, Izuku-san. The largest tray would reveal the surprise. Mika, on the count of 3. 2. 1. She discreetly pressed a button in her hand, starting to play a classic celebratory song, We Are the Champions. Izuku/Kyoto-ku/Mika, congratulations, Kyoka. 3 desserts were revealed, 1 slightly larger, with a comically drawn girl posing as All Might, a strawberry cake, a lemon cake, and a chocolate one, all connected by a cookie bridge. Kyoka, Mom. Dad. Thank you. She wanted to cry, but she wouldn't, especially not in front of her parents and a stranger. Kyoto-ku, I wanted to keep it a secret until tomorrow, he sighed with some annoyance. Izuku, but admit it, Kyoto-ku-san, it wasn't a good move to bring so much equipment when you knew she was at home. The man sighed, realizing his mistake. Kyoka, who is he, Mom? She glanced over her mother's shoulder at the guy with a dazzling smile. Mika, he's the cafe owner, and he helped us with your surprise. She took her daughter's hand and walked toward the green-haired guy. Mika, Izuku-san, this is Kyoka, the one we've talked so much about. She introduced her daughter, who simply raised her hand. Izuku, nice to meet you, Kyoka-san. The freckled guy greeted her kindly. Kyoka, nice to meet you too, I guess. Is he really the cafe owner? Seems a bit young for that, she observed the freckled guy, who was overly friendly. Izuku, I guess we should reveal the surprise, right? The woman smiled, and her husband agreed. Kyoto-ku, you're too impulsive, rock star, he scolded his daughter, who glared at him. Mika, dear, you impulsively bought a stereo to replace the broken one Izuku-san had and left it at home where Kyoka could see it. Her husband was left speechless as her daughter mocked him. Izuku, come on, let's not start arguing. It's time to celebrate. He led the 3 to the central table where a cat named Gayeta was sleeping. Izuku, for real. Mika, don't worry, Izuku-san, I'll handle it. She picked up the cat and showed it to her daughter, who smiled at the cat. Mika, this is our other employee. Say hi to Gayeta, Kyoka. The cat opened its eyes and meowed at the girl. Kyoka, hello, little one. She petted the cat, which moved from her mother's hands to her lap, demanding more affection. Kyoka, hey. The cat meowed seriously at the purple-haired girl, who sighed. Kyoka, okay. Defeated by the power of cuteness, she continued to pet the cat. Izuku, I'll be back in a minute with the surprise. He entered the kitchen with excitement. Kyoto-ku, let me help you, Izuku-san. He followed the guy, leaving both women and the cat. Kyoka, I'm sorry I ruined the surprise. They were acting so strange and going out every evening, and then they brought that equipment. Her mother patted her head. Mika, it was our mistake. We should have been more discreet, but we were too excited. You've started on this path of being a hero, and I know you've worked hard to get here. Her daughter looked at her with a smile. Kyoka, thanks, Mom. She hugged her mother, who accepted it gladly. Kyoka, by the way, why here? Mika, oh, Izuku-san makes delicious desserts, and the atmosphere is so warm and peaceful. We thought it was a good idea. Trust me, you'll love the strawberry milkshake. Izuku, and, for the love of everything, don't be like your father and order lemonade, please. The freckled guy reappeared with a tray, and her husband followed with 3 more. Kyoto-ku, enough teasing me. He sat down indignantly with everyone. Mika, whatever, it's time for the reveal. She smiled at her husband, who took the lids off 2 of the trays, while she took off the last one. Izuku, I know, Izuku-san. The largest tray would reveal the surprise. Mika, on the count of 3. 2. 1. She discreetly pressed a button in her hand, starting to play a classic celebratory song, We Are the Champions. Izuku/Kyoto-ku/Mika, congratulations, Kyoka. 3 desserts were revealed, 1 slightly larger, with a comically drawn girl posing as All Might, a strawberry cake, a lemon cake, and a chocolate one, all connected by a cookie bridge. Kyoka, Mom. Dad. Thank you. She wanted to cry, but she wouldn't, especially not in front of her parents and a stranger. Today was a big day for UA as they started a new school year, a golden opportunity for their first-year students to show their effort and courage. It's the beginning of a journey towards good luck and great achievements. The reason Izuku knew that UA's school year was starting was because of two things. First, the crowd of students wearing UA uniforms heading there, and second, Kyoka showed up in the morning, ordered a coffee, and her sleep problem disappeared. Ever since a surprise encounter just 2 weeks ago, she had become a regular at the cafe. She not only came as a customer but also helped Izuku discreetly with his heavy workload. She didn't want to be too direct with him, knowing how he'd react. "Izuku, aren't you supposed to be at UA by now?" he commented with a hint of humor as Kyoka was lounging at the bar. "Kyoka, Gietta is forcing me to stay in this chair." She wasn't telling the truth, the cat was playing with its plush mouse nearby. "Izuku, Kyoka-san, I know you hate waking up early, especially on Mondays. Sometimes I think giving you lasagna would turn you into Garfield. But do you really want to be late on your first day?" The girl sighed and got up, stretching. "Kyoka, you always know how to get me moving, Izuku," she mumbled as she headed to the door. "See you after school." "Izuku, goodbye," he said with a smile, bidding farewell to Kyoka. Just seconds later, Kendo rushed into the cafe. "Kendo, Midoriya-san, give me a quick coffee to go." She was clearly in a hurry. "Izuku, take it easy, Kendo-san. You're not really late, even though it might seem like it. Check the All Might limited edition clock on the wall." The girl calmed down instantly. Kendo, oh, wow, she sighed, sitting in the same chair Kyoka had just left. "Thank goodness." "Izuku, let me guess, your mom told you that you were running late?" The girl nodded regretfully. "I'll get your coffee. Gietta, watch over her until then." The cat continued playing, unsurprisingly. Despite her mother's reservations about her pursuing a career in heroics, Kendo's determination reminded her of her late husband, so she allowed it. Izuku reminded Kendo to drink her coffee carefully. "Kendo, I'm sorry, Midoriya-san. I'm just too excited." She smiled, embarrassed, as Izuku rolled his eyes good-naturedly. "Izuku, I understand that UA is the best hero academy in Japan, but it's not going anywhere. Plus, they won't close the door so quickly just because of the time. So, enjoy your coffee." The girl nodded, continuing to sip her drink. "Kendo, did you find someone to help you yet?" The freckled boy sighed. "Izuku, not yet. People want more money than I can offer, so unless they're willing to work half a day for a part-time pay instead of full-time, I haven't had any luck." He needed to find someone quickly, otherwise, he'd have to close much earlier to save materials and time. "Kendo, I'd offer, but I have to help my mom at her shop in the afternoons. I'm sorry." The green-haired boy shook his head. "Izuku, you have your own problems, and I have mine. You don't need to worry beyond your grades." The orange-haired girl nodded. "Now, go to UA and have a great time." "Kendo, you always know what to say." She finished her drink and petted the cat at her side. "Goodbye, Gietta. Take care of Midoriya-san in my absence." She looked at Izuku, who was smiling. "See you later, Midoriya-san." "Izuku, goodbye, Kendo-san." With that, the girl headed to her destination. Izuku looked at the cat, which was still licking itself. "Do you think it would have been at UA? Probably just taking general courses and getting teased for not having a quirk. At least I don't have to deal with Bakugo." With that, his day continued. After the students left, Izuku went about his day, knowing what awaited him in just a couple of hours with the evening rush. He had one last hope, that someone would walk in and decide to take the job, even though he believed it wasn't the best offer due to his limited budget. Still, he was thinking of ways to solve everything and optimize things in the cafe, even though he saw it as a daunting task. Izuku was constantly looking out the window, hoping not to see too much commotion beyond the ordinary. "Izuku, I wonder if they've already left." He glanced at the clock on the wall. "I hope there won't be too much of a rush." The bell rang, and he turned around to welcome Kyoka, who had a big smile on her face. "Kyoka, I'm here for a coffee." The sign read, "I'm going to spend hours here talking about everything that happened at UA." "Izuku, I'll call Kyotoku-san." He left while Kyoka went to sit at the bar again. "Kyoka, where's Gietta?" She looked around but couldn't find the cat. "Izuku, check the TV," he said from the kitchen. The cat was peacefully asleep on the shelf above the TV. Kyoka, you're a clever cat. She smiled half-heartedly at the cat, which settled in its not-so-secret spot. Izuku, there you go. I made you a midnight shake. He placed the shake in front of Kyoka, who looked at it strangely. Kyoka, I thought I asked for a coffee. Izuku looked at her incredulously. Izuku, we both know you like my shakes more. And I know you won't be leaving for a while, so. The girl sighed in defeat. Kyoka, am I that predictable? Izuku nodded. Izuku, you've been doing the same thing since your fight with Mika-san, coming here to calm down. The girl lowered her gaze in embarrassment. Kyoka, I don't even know why we argued. The freckled boy rolled his eyes playfully. Izuku, you were arguing about a composition that Kyotoku-san was working on, and you didn't like a particular note, the girl realized. Kyoka, I still think it would sound better without that note. She was still annoyed by it. Izuku, just have your shake and tell me about your day, I'm all ears. He spoke calmly, and at that moment, the door opened again. Kendo, Midoriya-san, it was super amazing. You won't believe the interesting classmates I have, it's unbelievable. She sat down next to the purple-haired girl, who looked somewhat surprised. Izuku, calm down, Kendo-san, not so fast, or you might faint. He placed a coffee in front of her and continued cleaning. Kendo, I can't believe the interesting classmates I have, and they're all so friendly, and. She felt like she was running out of breath. Izuku, I see you're excited, he turned to look at both of them. I'll be with you in a moment, Kendo-san. The orange-haired girl nodded with excitement. Would you like a lemon dessert with your shake or some cookies, Kyoka-san? The girl next to the orange-haired girl thought for a second. Kyoka, cookies are fine. The boy nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. Kendo, where's Gyeta? She murmured, curious about the cat. Kyoka, look at the TV, she replied, focusing on her drink. I'll figure out how this works even if it's the last thing I do. She was quite content with her drink. Kendo, ah. She was a happy, fluffy ball of fur, sitting a bit away. By the way. She looked at the girl, realizing the obvious. You're going to UA, right? The purple-haired girl nodded. Kyoka, Class 1A, Jiro Kyoka, and you? She introduced herself to the girl. Kendo, Itsuka Kendo, Class 1B, the girl responded kindly. Kyoka, nice to meet you. I hope there won't be any issues with us being in different classes, I don't want to have problems with anyone. She wanted to avoid as many problems as possible, especially with that blonde guy from her class. Kendo, we're good. I just want to become a hero, and it'll be a pleasure to have you as a classmate. Her usual kindness shone through. Izuku, ah, you're both so sweet. The freckled boy emerged with 2 plates, one with cookies and the other with a chocolate cake. Shark cookies for Kyoka-san and a chocolate cake for Kendo-san. He placed both in front of the girls, who were looking at the food with a hint of drool. As Izuku had foreseen, both girls spent a couple of hours sharing their experiences at UA. They discussed how they were tested right from the start of the day, their different classmates, and how they both found it amusing that they had quirks similar to some boys in their classes. Even with the calm and cheerful atmosphere, Izuku didn't dare ask which class Bakugo was in. He wanted nothing to do with that guy, but he promised to warn the girls if things got tough with the explosive blonde. For now, he didn't want to ruin their mood. Just as he expected, his cafe filled up after the UA students left. It was challenging to manage everything on his own. Music, television, and a cookie that stole customers' attention helped a lot. He only had occasional problems like mixing up orders or accidentally bumping into someone. But the chaos inside the cafe caused him to lose track of time, and he was an hour behind schedule for closing. Izuku, well. We're out of cookies, icing, and jelly material. Flour is running low too. I spent a lot today. Thank goodness a supply delivery is coming tomorrow, otherwise, I don't know what I'd do. Also, that dessert Kendo-san and Kyoka-san had didn't help. But it's not like the first day happens every day, he sighed, visibly tired. Where did you go, Cookie? He asked, looking around without actually looking at the cat. For Cookie, staying still wasn't easy, especially after sleeping so much. Following his instincts and seeing that the cafe's door was open, he decided to take a stroll. He wasn't going to get lost, it wasn't the first time he had gone out, and he knew the nearby streets well enough to know where to go and where not to. Coming back would be easy. The new school year had given the heroes turned teachers a lot of work. Juggling both professions was quite complicated, and even though the commission understood that they were somewhat inactive or off the front lines when it came to training new heroes, they still received daily requests for assistance due to their quirks. During the holidays, they wouldn't even think about battling crime. But with these kids arriving and having All Might on staff, they had to decline many cases. Midnight, I'm truly surprised you didn't pull a stunt this year, Shota. After what happened last year, I expected you to use the same trick again, she commented to her black-haired friend, who sighed after adjusting his scarf. Aizawa, those kids have potential, more than last year. I'm not going to waste it, plain and simple, he said in a tired tone, indicating that he wouldn't discuss it further for a while. Mike, come on, admit that you've softened up a bit and have mercy on the new listeners, he teased. If looks could kill, his friend would have buried him in the center of the earth in a coffin of boiling nails. Aizawa, they have potential, that's all, he continued, leaving both of them laughing at the expense of the black-haired teacher. Mike, he's definitely softened, he commented, causing his friend to laugh. Midnight, don't be so intense, Hisashi. You know that Shota is sensitive about this, she joined in the banter without noticing where she was going and bumped into the black-haired teacher. Is something wrong, Shota? Aizawa, he was looking intently at his one and only weakness. Mike, wow, he said, looking at his friend while trying to hold back his laughter. Nemuri, there's a cat in the way. Midnight, it's wearing a little hat. Cookie smelled all three adults, and one of them reminded him of his mom. Meow. He approached the black-haired teacher and rubbed against him in a friendly manner. Aizawa, it has a collar, it belongs to someone. Before considering adopting the cat, he had to return it to its owner, who would undoubtedly be worried about the little feline. Mike, it's probably someone nearby. We can ask in a store, he suggested, heading off to see if there was one open nearby. I think I found where it comes from, he smiled, looking at a cafe. Midnight, is the owner yelling for the cat in the middle of the street? The blonde teacher shook his head. Mike, look, she approached a sign. Midnight, wow, it's quite ironic, to be honest. The black-haired teacher followed her. Aizawa, do you work for a mouse too? He lifted the cat, and it gave a clear meow. Aizawa, let's go. He walked towards the cafe, expecting a good explanation, even though he could guess what had happened. Izuku began to worry a lot. He had just finished counting his losses and Cookie still hadn't shown up. He wanted to give the cat some time to return, but if it didn't, he didn't know what to do. Maybe he'd search like crazy with his favorite food in hand, but for now, he had to be patient and concerned. Izuku, where did you go? He murmured anxiously when the bell over the door rang. I'm sorry, but we're closed already, so. He turned to shoo away the customer, only to find 3 people and the lost cat. Cookie. He ran toward the cat, which jumped into his arms. You worried me so much, he said, almost crying. Aizawa, I assume you're the irresponsible owner who let the cat out. The green-haired guy looked at him in surprise. Izuku, Eraserhead. He was quite astonished by this. Mike, wow, it seems we have a fan here, he said cheerfully. Izuku, present Mike and Midnight too. Now he could die in peace. Midnight, hello, she smiled at the cute guy with the cat in his hands. Aizawa, well? The freckled guy came to his senses and looked at the black-haired teacher. Why did you let the cat out? Izuku, oh, Cookie usually takes nightly walks before we leave. But since today was the first day of UA, I was really busy, and I was taking inventory of what was left. He explained to the adult who was looking inside where everything was very clean. Midnight, wasn't there another employee to take care of the cat while you were doing that? The freckled guy shook his head with some regret. Izuku, I'm the only employee in this cafe, besides Cookie, of course. The cat escaped from his owner and went to his owner's jacket to take a nap. Mike, poor guy, he murmured to his friend, who nodded. Midnight, I also never noticed there was a cafe here. Lost in so much tension, she hadn't paid attention to this. It's very cozy, it brought some calm to everything. Izuku, thanks for the compliment, he smiled at the woman who was analyzing the place. Mike, oh my god. SH. Oda, you have to see this, and you too, Nemuri. He tried to hold back his laughter as he looked at a menu. Izuku, this. He wanted to avoid embarrassment as much as possible. Aizawa, is this for real? He looked at the menu, especially at that dessert. An eraser flan? He raised an eyebrow, somewhat curious. Izuku, I didn't know what would go well with your aesthetics, so I just made the first thing that came to mind. I'm sorry. Midnight, do I have something too? Her friend nodded, taking a menu and looking for something that resembled her. A strawberry milkshake. Aw, I look great on the label. The guy was dying of embarrassment with all of this. Mike, hey, why is my Mike surrounded by danger signs? He felt slightly offended. Aizawa, maybe because of the screams you let out. You're making me deaf. His blonde friend looked at him, feeling utterly betrayed. Izuku, Mike is something special, and it makes you shout like Present Mike. That's why it's surrounded by warnings, plus it's super acidic, so you can imagine why it's so marked. The blonde understood, nodding. Midnight, you're incredibly creative. She complimented the guy, who felt a hint of pride bloom. Midnight, tell me, do you still have any midnight milkshakes? The excitement in her eyes was evident. Izuku, well. Mike, and do you have any flan? I want to see Shota's face when he eats that. He, too, looked eagerly at the guy. Izuku, ah. He felt overwhelmed. Aizawa, give him some space, can't you see you're overwhelming him? Both heroes looked at each other, taking a step back. Midnight, sorry, that wasn't my intention. Mike, yeah, kid, this is the first time this has happened to us. Usually, our merchandise isn't very well received, or at least not Shota's. His friend looked a bit annoyed. Izuku, I think I still have some milkshakes left, and as for the flan. He scratched his head, somewhat embarrassed. Not many people order the flan, so I still have a few left. I don't make many of them. Mike, if you have 3, please let us try them. The guy nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. Aizawa, it's incredible that I got dragged into this. Both friends held the black-haired teacher's hand and sat down at the bar. Midnight, relax, Shota. We're just going to eat your dessert, drink my milkshake, and then we'll go. It's that simple. The exhausted teacher sighed. Izuku, here you go. I only had enough for 2 milkshakes, so I brought a coffee instead. I'm sorry. The hero denied the apology. Midnight, we showed up at the last minute and begged you for a dessert. You don't have to apologize, kid. The green-haired guy placed the desserts and drinks on the table and took a step back. Midnight, well. She took a spoon and without hesitation, sliced off a part of her friend's head. Mike, let's see what your head tastes like. He was more ruthless and tore off his brain in one go. Aizawa, can I consider this cannibalism? He took a part of his own head, pondering whether to eat it. I guess not. He took a bite and was surprised by the taste, just like his friends. Midnight, she was extremely delighted by the flavor. It's delicious, she said after eating part of the flan. Mike, it's sweeter than Shota. I don't know if that's good or bad for not sticking to the original, he joked, and his friend looked at him angrily. Aizawa, it's not bad. It was a bit sweet for him, but he didn't complain. He took a sip of the coffee and froze. Mike, is something wrong, Shota? The black-haired teacher was frozen. Aizawa, it's the best coffee I've ever had in my life. Both friends looked at each other, extremely surprised. It seemed like Izuku had gained some new customers.